you could actually increase harnessed energy by a factor of 1,000,000 and still be using much less than 1,000,000th of the sun's energy. So current human civilization uses much less than 1,000,000th of the sun's energy output.
A factor of 1,000,000. That's not a typo. That's the man who builds the rockets telling a room full of Wall Street investors how big the economy could actually get. Not 10% bigger, not double, 1,000,000 times. And the day he said it was the day SpaceX went public, which is the first clue to what this whole interview was really about. Stick around, because the number that matters most isn't the one you think. For almost 10 years, people asked Elon to take SpaceX public. He said no every time. The company was cash flow positive. It didn't need the money, so why now?
We've been positive cash flow for quite a long time, I think since around 2014, 2015. And we've been self-funding. In fact, in our private equity rounds, they actually have not been fundraising rounds. They've been liquidity rounds for investors and employees, because we give everyone at the company stock. And SpaceX has actually bought back stock in most of our sort of funding events. So what's different about now is that it's a number of things, but we are embarking on a significant growth phase, like a capital growth phase, where we are going to put in orbit probably 100,000 satellites, or probably over 100,000 satellites just for communications.
Over 100,000 satellites for communications alone. That's not a product update. That's a new layer of infrastructure wrapped around the entire planet. And to understand why he needs it, you have to understand what he thinks is coming next. The new satellites, version 3, are 10 to 20 times more capable than the ones up there now. 100 times the bandwidth, half the latency, each one the size of a small bus. But the why is the part that matters for you, because this isn't built for human demand. It's built for machine demand. Billions of AI agents and robots talking to each other constantly. Listen to the gap he's actually building for.
Its peak bandwidth of the human is a few hundred bits per second, but bandwidth of a computer can be 1,000,000,000 bits a second. So the appetite for bandwidth of AI and robots is going to be enormous.
All that bandwidth, all that AI needs power, an enormous amount of it. And here's the bottleneck nobody wants to say out loud. You can't build power plants fast enough, and nobody wants one in their backyard. So Elon's answer isn't to fight that battle on Earth at all.
If we wanted to say double the electricity usage of the United States, which is on average about 500 gigawatts, we would have to build about twice as many power plants, which I don't think most communities are not super excited about that. But actually, if we go to space, we can go far beyond the electricity generation of Earth. A tiny dust mote in a vast darkness. And the sun is enormous. The sun is 99.8% of all mass in the solar system, and most of the remaining 0.2% is Jupiter. And you can scale to 1,000,000 times Earth's economy in space in terms of harnessed power, which is a good proxy for economic output, and still be much less than 1,000,000th of the sun's energy, which is humbling, really, to think about how tiny we are.
That's the real thesis. Energy is the limit on everything. On Earth is hard. In space, it basically disappears. He even has a name for it, not solar power, star power, but energy in orbit is useless if you can't get there cheaply. And that's the breakthrough most people overlook. Every other form of transport is reusable. Planes, cars, ships, bikes. Imagine throwing the aeroplane away after every flight. That's how rockets have always worked, until this.
But the fundamental breakthrough of Starship is that it will be the first orbital rocket that is fully reusable. So this might sound like an obvious thing, but Because in every other mode of transport, whether that's aircraft, cars, bicycles, horses, you name it, ships, these are all, we take it for granted that they are reusable. An aircraft journey would be very expensive if you had to throw the plane away every time. And that's how rockets have been in the past. But it's very difficult from a technology standpoint to achieve full reusability for a rocket. We've got part of the way there with Falcon 9, but we'll get all the way there with Starship. And once you achieve full reusability, then it's simply a cost, it's simply the cost of access to orbit is just the cost of propellant. The cost of propellant for Starship will be less than the cost of jet aviation fuel, which means that you should be able to actually send cargo to space for less than the cost of cargo on an airplane going on a transoceanic trip.
Cargo to space, cheaper than cargo on a plane. Sit with that. The one thing that always made space impossible, cost, is collapsing to the price of fuel. V3 lifts 100 tons, V4 200, launching every hour. And once orbit is cheap, a door opens that changes everything. Here's what cheap orbit unlocks: not just satellites, data centers in space. And listen how simple he makes it sound before he takes it one step further, to the moon.
We don't think this is a particularly difficult thing to do. In fact, we think it's easier than our communication satellites. Quite a bit easier than our communication satellites. The Starlink V3 communication satellite is an incredibly complex machine. The AI data center would be much simpler by comparison, because it's really just solar power plus radiator, some basic equipment for operating the satellite, and then the laser links which would connect to the Starlink communications constellation, and then to the ground. Is that because the moon has no atmosphere and about 1/6 Earth's gravity, you can use an electromagnetic accelerator, a railgun or mass driver. Basically, you don't need to use rockets to do AI data centers into deep space from the moon. You can literally just shoot them like a railgun type of thing.
From Earth, maybe 1 terawatt of AI compute a year. From the moon, 1,000 terawatts, 1,000 times more. This is where most people check out and call it science fiction. But notice what he's doing. He's describing a supply chain where the limit on intelligence stops being chips and starts being energy and orbit, which brings it right back down to Earth, to a number that should worry every founder building on AI. Elon is also building chip fabs in New York. He calls it the terafab. And the reason why is the most concrete, most actionable thing in the entire interview.
It's worth noting that there's not a single high-volume computer memory fab in America right now. Zero. There's one being built in Idaho by Micron, but that will not reach volume production until, I believe, 2028. And there's some being built in New York, but they are, I think, 29 and 30. And this is a tiny fraction of the memory that's needed. And in fact, even if you take the best case assumptions of the memory makers and the logic makers, it is not enough to meet the demand that is anticipated.
Zero. The country running the AI revolution can't currently make the memory the AI runs on. Here's the founder translation. Every AI tool you depend on sits on top of a supply chain that is dangerously thin. Compute is the new oil, and the refineries don't exist yet. The people who win the next decade aren't just the ones who use AI. They're the ones who understand where it's fragile and build where the bottleneck is. Before that last bit, a quick one. You know the AI shift is moving fast, but you're still wasting hours manually pulling content together to build a newsletter instead of actually iterating. Newsletterly fixes that. Go from a blank page to a curated newsletter in minutes. Get your time back to build your actual moat. Grab the lifetime deal in the description. Buy it once, own it forever. Now, one last thing from Elon. One last thing. After 24 years, 650 rockets, 10,000 satellites. Jamie Dimon asked him how he's changed, and the answer wasn't about strategy.
I mentioned this before, is that in terms of recruiting people to the company or having people work at the company, their individual abilities and their intellectual capabilities matter a lot, but also it also matters if they have a good heart. It's not just about whether somebody has a certain IQ or whatever, but just are they a good person? That matters a lot. I don't know, I guess I've learned a lot, although I feel like I still have a lot to learn and make a lot of mistakes. But I think maybe the future AI will say, not bad for a human.
Not bad for a human. The man building the machines that might outthink all of us measures his own team by their heart. There's a lesson in that for founders. The tech is going vertical. The advantage that's left is judgment, character, and the people you build with. So here's the takeaway. SpaceX is going public because Elon is raising capital for the biggest infrastructure bet in history. Moving energy, bandwidth, and compute of the planet. AI doesn't need more apps. It needs power, bandwidth, and chips. And all three are running into hard physical limits. Whoever solves those limits owns the next trillion-dollar economy. You're not launching rockets, but the same rule applies to your business. Find the real bottleneck and build there. And if you want to stay on the right side of this shift, that's exactly what I do every week in my newsletter. I take the top AI CEOs, Elon, Dario, Jensen, all of them, break down what they're really saying and translate it into achievable signal for founders, builders, operators, and business owners. It's free, and it's the easiest way to actually use this stuff instead of just watching it go by. Head to michaelcoppola.co.uk/newsletter, links in the description, and sign up. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.